In this lesson, we'll continue working on the refined line work for our character concept. Alright, so in the previous lesson we had worked our way around the legs on the right-hand portion of our character and had left off with this leg that's closest to us. So let's go ahead and get started finishing off this front leg. Then we'll work our way over into the little arms that hang off the front side of our creature. So again, working here around the gear area that exists somewhere around his knee, and allow his leg to pivot like a traditional knee would. And coming in here and just pulling out the line work for these armor segments that exist on sort of his shin area, and kind of exploring how this fork area sort of creates an interlocking effect between the two plates, and how much of that we're going to actually see, and how much of that detail is going to be hidden from view for this particular leg. And you know, with some of these lines, especially these longer lines, I'm still using, my elbow when I'm drawing those, and really trying to extend that line beyond where it goes, and come in and clean up that line once I've gotten a line I'm happy with. So again, rotating the canvas however I need to get the most comfortable line for my arm, and just working my way up the back side of this lower portion of his leg right now, creating these segments that are wrapping their way around where his calf would be if this was more of a human-like leg. So at this point, we've really drawn almost 3 complete legs, and a lot of these details, again, are starting to get a little monotonous, a little repetitive. So, again, just as when working with the rough line work, if you find yourself getting a little bored or a little bit unhappy with a certain area, maybe you need to take a break from a certain area on your character, by all means, go ahead and do that. I think we're going to go ahead and hammer through this last leg, and then we're going to work on over to the little front arms, or little arms that are in front of our character. So, working here, just adding a lot of these same repetitive details can, it can get kind of monotonous, and to be honest, can get a little boring. But, try and do what you can to keep your subject interesting, because like I've said before, the more fun you're having in drawing your character, whether it be the rough line work or whether it be the refined line work, the better end result you're going to come out with, and it's definitely going to show. So do whatever you have to do to keep what you're drawing interesting. If that takes you moving over to another area, another certain part of the character, and working on that for a little while, so be it. If you actually just need to take a break from drawing for a while, feel free to get up, go grab a drink, do whatever you have to be able to go into this with the right frame of mind. I mean, this is as much about having fun as it is about producing an end product. So if you're getting to draw a character concept, then that's a pretty fun thing. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to say you're doing. So if you're not having fun, then really what's the point in doing it? I mean, it's all about having fun, right? Well, really, in addition to producing a quality end product, which, is essentially the most important thing, but the two things are so closely tied together that it's hard to do one thing without the other. So let's go ahead and work our way over and start looking at these shapes in his arms. And, keep in mind that these arms are a little bit different from his legs, especially in this upper portion. Remember, in the legs we had three individual segments in the legs that created sort of the length in the leg. With these arms, these are a lot smaller arms, and they're a lot shorter. So we've only got one segment here between sort of that gear that connects to the body and these 3 gears that sort of represent the knee, or actually the elbow, however you want to look at this. So I'm working right now again to draw these ellipses and create these curved lines that make up these gears. And again, I mentioned before the challenge in drawing ellipses in perspective. So, with these, I drew one that I was happy with, but I didn't draw it big enough. So I'm just using my lasso tool, lassoing it up and stretching it out, repositioning it a little bit, because I was pretty happy with the ellipse that I drew. So we'll just come down here and again work our way down this leg, hitting on some of these details. Again, we've got a small window here, and maybe that's, I mentioned before, maybe that's an area where we're going to choose to illuminate the character. Maybe that's somewhere where it shows that the power in the character or in the creature is moving through that extremity. All right, so and now again with this arm, we're actually able to see a little bit more down into the depths of that upper segment of his arm. So, and we need to kind of see how these gears connect to that segment. So maybe we've got sort of a couple other extensions that go between the gears, sort of like these ones that we've been drawing on the lower portion of the leg, and they come up and they connect to sort of a cylinder that runs through the middle of those gears. That we can see the end of it maybe sticking out on the side, but we don't see much of the cylinder because of the perspective. Because of the angle that we're looking at this from, we don't see much of the interior parts of the gears and the cylinder that runs through those. So again, coming down here and just drawing in this piece that sort of reminds me of a shin pad or a piece of armor, and our character is very segmented. He's got lots of individual little shapes instead of like one large mass. And that makes drawing him like I said before, a little tedious and a little time consuming, because we're drawing individual shapes and almost individual objects for each of the little parts of our character here. But in the end, it's going to make for a really interesting character to look at. It's going to make for it makes for a very detailed character, and I know that our modeler here is very talented, and he's going to sort of take this to the next level and really build something that's very, very impressive based on this character design. And likewise, anybody else who has their hands on this project is, really going to take this character and push it to its limits, and as far as maybe rendering and lighting, or whatever the case may be, animating the character. This is going to end up being an amazing project, and I'm excited to be able to start the ball rolling with this project here with the character concept, and just exploring what the character can be in a sketch form, in a drawn form. We are basically setting the stage for every step after this. So it's important to keep that in mind as you're producing a character concept. You want it to be as great as you can make it. You want it to be to look amazing. So the more information you provide to the next person in line, the more he's going to have to work with. And really, if he's not having to guess on certain areas, then he can spend his time putting more detail in, putting more fun stuff in on his own part. So again, coming in here now, just kind of exploring this area where the gears connect to the upper portion of the leg. Again, we've got a couple little pieces here maybe that float in to the area between the three gears and connect those up. So again, just to be consistent, we're going to go and do that little spoke pattern here on the gears, and maybe those are actually pieces that are chiseled out of the gears, and up to the modeler, I guess, what we want those to look like. But I just know that these are going to be gears, and they're going to add to that very mechanical feel of our character. I think I've mentioned this before, but I think that as we're drawing this character, it's also important to consider the materials he's made out of. Now, we may have been just kind of assuming that this character is metal all the way around, but we also talked a little bit about maybe doing a plastic or some kind of a rubberized foot for him so he doesn't make noise when he walks. And I think that it's important at this point, since we're really working on the refined lines, to start considering maybe the materials he's made out of. Maybe, what type of metal is this? Is this a chrome metal? Is this more of a brushed aluminum type metal? Is it painted? Is he actually a color? We're going to be coming in next and doing the color for this character, but it's a good idea to have an idea of the direction you want to go with that color before you just begin adding the color to the line work. So it's a good idea to be thinking about that beforehand, and maybe is this are these plates a different color than the plates behind, or how exactly does this character look as far as the rendering goes? If there's a variety of materials being used on him, whether it be metal, whether it be plastic, how would light reflect off these materials? Is it going to create more of a soft reflection? Is it going to create any reflection at all, really? I mean, if we're using sort of a rubberized foot here, maybe it's not going to create a reflection. Maybe it's going to be a contrasting color. Maybe we've got a dark gray color for the feet instead of a glossy machined metallic look to them. So really a lot of things to think about as far as what materials are being used to construct this character, and how we can communicate that in terms of color. But, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We're gonna handle color in just a couple more lessons, but really right now let's just work on finishing up the detail refinement through these refined lines, and just coming in now, hitting in some of these areas that maybe we've missed. Maybe this spoke-like pattern inside these gears again. Maybe kind of pulling in some of these lines that don't make sense. I think it's still important at this point to step back from your work and look for areas that you may have missed, may not have flushed out completely. Alright, so in this lesson we've finished detailing out the front arms of our character. In the next lesson we'll pick up where we're leaving off here and continue working on the refined line work for our character concept.